said that it said that it was full, man.
That's because all the people, the links you guys were putting in the chat, people are clicking those links, so they're able to get in. They're logging in with your information.
Well, it said it's broadcasting now.
Yeah, it is.
Thank God. We have no idea what the hell we're doing. I see 550 people on this call, dude. I thought it was supposed to be like 200.
Oh, man. That's because all the people, the links you guys were putting in the chat. All right. So we got Daryl on this call here. Anybody out there?
Hello, John,
All right.
Doug, Chico, Michael, Steven. Thank God. We have no idea what the hell we're doing.
I certainly don't.
Okay, Daryl, can you hear me, Daryl?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay, could you do me a huge favor and log out and log in with the email link that you got, because you're actually on the admin right now, so you've got 500 people staring at you.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Daryl.
Yeah. Now.
There we go. Hello, everybody. All right. Look at all
That's
of you. I'm
hilarious.
so glad to see you are here. This is so awesome.
Dude, there's 552 people on this call.
Me and Dan are just freaking out trying to figure out how to work this. We're not technical masters.
Technical master? I can't even spell technical. Damn, dude. All right. This is insane. I guess people are like pretty stoked about this, man. We better deliver some goods.
Yeah, we are so sorry. I don't know how the wires got crossed, but we were having a heck of a time trying to get this webinar to start, so I'm sorry you had to wait. So, hello, everybody.
Hello.
Yep, and I can see
All
your
right,
chats.
Steve, I'm looking for my...
We can see your chats, but you cannot see the chat. That's way it's easier for us to monitor everything, so just keep the chats coming. We can see you.
Webinar.
So how you doing today, Dan?
Dude, I'm great.
You look good.
When I wake up breathing, it's going to be a great day.
Sometimes when Dan and I meet, because he lives in San Diego and I live in Fargo, so we'll meet online and he has these cool black shades that he'll be wearing. I can tell he's ready for the day.
I don't know where my shades are. It's kind of cloudy here today for the first time in like a year. All right, cool. Dude, this is going to rock. Okay, let's get going, man. So, we're already like late. Video and sound sounds good. I just want to welcome everybody to this call because you are sharing with us your most valuable asset, which is your time. And so for me, I'm already honored that you're even here on a Saturday. And we're up to 569 folks, 570 folks. People just keep coming in. So go ahead and get started. You know, we said we were going to start at. I apologize for all of the. It was really insane. And I also want to go ahead and apologize for the guys who are outside working, cutting the grass in my neighbor's yard. They've got their weed whackers out there and their blowers and everything, so hopefully that won't be too loud and distracting. If so, I can just shut my mic off. So just as by way of introduction, if for any reason you don't know who I am, I'll give you a mercifully brief introduction, which is just that started playing guitar when I was 13 years old. I was really into metal in the beginning. I had a band. We needed a singer. I started singing in the band very reluctantly, and I said I'm only going to sing until we have a singer because I'm a guitar player. I'm not a singer. Fast forward like a year after that, I was still singing. We still hadn't found a guy, and it was time for me to go to college, and I had no friggin' money. So I went over to the college that I wanted to go to, University of Memphis, and auditioned for their vocal program, actually, and I got a full scholarship, which is pretty cool. So I went to school, kept playing guitar, studied all this theory stuff, majored in music history, voice, piano, graduated with a music degree, but I should say that when I entered, I had to take remedial theory. So don't think that I have some kind of unfair advantage because I got put in remedial theory. I had no clue. I couldn't even tell you that a triad had 3 notes or what the notes of a C scale were. And I was in college with a scholarship. So they don't, I just showed up and tried my best and learned all this stuff from scratch from the very, very beginning. So Steve, and that's my story. And I played in some bands and did some other stuff, but that's enough about me. Steve has much more interesting things to tell about. So, Steve, I'm sure almost everybody knows who you are here. Just give us a brief intro, and let's jump into the meat of this thing.
Okay, well, hello, everybody. My name is Steve from GuitarZoom, of course. I started playing guitar when I was 13. My parents bought me my first electric guitar, ironically from the place that I wound up working at for almost 20 years, a music store here in Fargo. And I saw, I had a cousin that had the Kiss Love Gun album. And from that day, I was convinced that I was going to be Ace Frehley from Kiss. And so I started playing, and I played a ton. I played hours a day, and joined bands when I think I was 17 when I got in my first band, and wound up going to Moorhead State, getting a degree, teaching at NDSU, North Dakota State University. I'm a Montessori certified teacher. And so I've worked with kids all my life and worked with adults. I've taught private lessons and group classes all around the world, and played in bands, toured for about 15 years, and here I am. So, the thing about playing is that I love to play, I love to perform, but there's no doubt that I love to teach. So I'm certainly glad that you're all here, and I hope that today you're going to get something out of this, that we're going to be able to help you a little bit in understanding theory, music theory. And I just want to start off by saying this. A lot of times people say, why do I got to learn music theory? I mean, I know how to play like a pentatonic scale, or I know whatever. And I'm going to be honest with you, for everybody on this call, there is elevation in your guitar game when you understand what you're doing versus, and I'm not being disrespectful, but when you kind of are trying to pretend like you know what you're doing. And don't get me wrong, because I do it all the time. It's like you learn a shape on the guitar and you just start playing through it. Once you start learning how 2 and 2 kind of really equals 4, you can take your musicality to the next level. And that's like a lot of the guitar greats. The one thing that they have that a lot of people don't is that they've got direction. It's not just moving around, but it's a purpose, and music theory can really provide you with that. So
nice. So, Steve, let me, by the way, dude, I'm getting some feedback, like I can hear everything that I'm saying to you. I don't know if there's some setting or something where, like, you can hear me, but I don't hear myself feedbacking into the thingy.
Yeah, I'm
what
not
were you
sure.
doing the other day? It was working really good. I mean, it's not like a deal killer.
Okay.
Okay, so, look, let's jump right into this thing, man. People are here to learn, and we're going to hopefully deliver some amazing stuff. And I want to encourage you guys to stay with us to the very end. And in fact, I'm going to give you 2 bonuses just for staying with us to the end. They are, oh man, what are they? They're 2 courses. What are the courses? Oh, the scale chord relationships, and what was it? Oh, play modes now. So there's actually 2 bonuses, guys, that we're going to give out a special link to that you can get on this webinar, and there's no other way you can get it, actually. We're going to give out this link at the end of this webinar, and you're going to be able to go over and just download for free, or I should say not download, but create an account if you don't already have a GuitarZoom account, and then just log in, and you'll have access to these 2 bonuses. One of them is Scale Chord Relationships Explained, where I take the major scale, break it down and show you exactly which notes are in it, the whole half-step formula, and then I harmonize that scale for you and show you which chords come from that scale and why, and how all that is related, the scales and chords, because they are 2 sides of the exact same coin. And that you're going to get that bonus for free just for being with us until the end of the presentation. And again, that's just kind of our way of saying thanks. And then the other way, the other thing we're going to get is Play Modes Now, which is Steve's up-and-coming course. Hasn't even been released yet. It's probably going to sell for $97, but you're going to get it free if you hang out with us to the end. play modes now, and we're going to give that link out at the end of the webinar. Plus, you're going to learn 10 music theory shortcuts, and we're going to cover that right now. So let's jump to it, Steve. The way I'd really like to do this, man, is I'll kind of guide the music theory kind of heady stuff, and hopefully you can demonstrate the practical stuff, and that way people can get both the theory part and the application of it. So the very first thing I want to talk about is the major scale. The major scale is really the foundation of everything that we do, and it can be morphed into all kinds of chords and altered into the modes, or actually major scale does have the modes, of course, but it can be changed to make minor scales, harmonic minor, melodic minor, natural minor, and the pentatonics, etc. So let's start with the major scale. Why don't you just show us your major scale on however you want to demonstrate it, and then we want to have you play a little solo using major, and we're going to rate your solo here. So get your finger ready to vote on how much you like
yay or boo. So,
yeah.
okay, well, the major scale on the guitar, obviously in the theory course you learn all about these and how the scale is created and stuff, but the scale would look like this. I'm going to go up to C, which is no sharps and no flats here. And I'm going to play C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and then back to C. And I'm playing what's called a spread fingering right now.
Okay, so how else can you play that scale?
Well, I could play it if I know all my positions. I could play this all over the place. Like I could play here, or here, wherever I want to go. I can play it all over the place. So.
Okay, sweet. So I'm getting a little lag from you, man. I don't know if it's me or if it's you.
Well, you're cutting in and out for most people really bad. So, and your video is a little bit fuzzy.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm janky. Okay. Well, let's do this. Let me kill my video for a second, and I'll just talk.
Okay.
And then, since you're the main dude anyway, so. Okay, so that major scale, once you memorize it, you've got your notes across the fretboard that you can choose for your solo, and maybe you've got a jam track queued up for us, and you can demo that major scale across the fretboard, and we'll create this poll here.
Okay, well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to play a little static C chord sound that Dan's already made fun of, but I'm going to play it for you, and I'm going to show you what the C scale sounds like over the top, and then I'll jam a little bit with it. So let me play this for you.
All right.
See how that works? It's just static, just a static C sound over and over and over. I mean, it's pretty darn cool. So now
that is cool, dude.
Yeah. What I'll do? Do you want me to play a little bit more?
No, let's move on, man. So the major scale, the big overarching point about major scale is that it's well, am I still janky?
Yeah. Yep.
Dang it. I'll turn my camera off. The big point about the major scale is that it has 7 notes, and that one scale can be started on 12 different pitches, and therefore you can play 12 different scales once you memorize that one scale pattern. And you happen to be playing in the key of C right there, but look how many notes you were able to play just by taking those 7 notes and applying them across the fretboard. So that's really the first topic, is mastering the major scale and how it goes across the entire fretboard. Second thing I want to cover, Steve, is, okay, once we've got these, the scale, how do we take and turn it into chords? And what chords does the scale produce?
Sure. Okay. Well, basically, from those 7 notes that you get in a scale, and what you have to understand about a scale is that once you've created the half-step and whole-step configuration of that major scale, the cool thing is that that is transferable to other keys. So for instance, if you were in the key of C, you get a certain amount of half steps and whole steps in that, and that configuration stays the same no matter what key you play in. So if we're going to create chords from the key of C, which is what I'm talking about right now, each one of those steps, step 1, step 2, step 3, each one of those is going to get its own chord. We call those triads, which are 3-note chords. So for instance, if I'm in the key of C, I get a C major chord, which makes sense if I'm in the key of C major. I get a D minor chord, and an E minor chord, and an F major chord, and a G major chord, and an A minor chord, and then I finally get a B diminished chord. So what happens is out of those 7 notes, I get 3 major chords on the 1, the 4, and the 5. I get 3 minor chords on the 2, 3, and 6, and then my 7 chord winds up being diminished. So back. So any of those chords, I can make chord progressions out of them, right? Which is really what songs are.
Yeah,
so,
exactly. So what is, if you take that exact same concept, Steve, let's say you transpose it to another key. I think this was a huge aha moment for me was, okay, I've got these chords and that are produced from the scale, but guess what? If I just start on a different root note, and you say root note, since you're from North Dakota, you can take those exact chord shapes and basically create a whole other set of chords. So show us, you just showed us in C, so why don't you transpose it and let us hear the difference between the C and, let's say, for example, G.
Okay, so let me just take 3 chords, for instance. I'm going to play the 1 chord, the 4 chord, and the 5 chord in the key of C, and it sounds like this. Now that's transposable in any key. So if I go down to the key of G, I've got or the key of A.
Sweet. So being able to transpose is huge, man. We'll get into that topic just a minute. So I guess the big takeaway on point number 2, or shortcut number 2, is that there's a set of chords that come from the major scale. They have the same quality every single time, and they can be transposed into different keys.
Yes, and that's really, really important, because if you're going to work on songwriting or ear training and things like that, you don't want to think like the key of G is so much more difficult than the key of D or the key of A. Once you learn your music theory, they're all actually the same. It's just you're just moving it up or down in terms of pitch.
Very cool. Okay, so let's move on to number 3, Steve.
Okay.
So the third shortcut we're going to talk about is chord progressions. All right. So why don't you just demo for us what a chord progression is?
Okay. Well, a chord progression is the way the chords move. So, for instance, in blues, chord progressions really start off as being what you call a 1-4-5, and we'll get deeper into that. But let me just show you. So, if I was going to play some blues, I would play the 1, the 4, and the 5 in whatever key I'm in. So, I'm going to be in the key of G right now. So, I'm going to go. So I'm using the 1, the 4, and the 5 to create a kind of a funky blues, that sort of thing. And here's an example. From that 1-4-5, if you've ever listened to any 50s music or any 60s music, there was a chord progression created that was referred to as the 1-6-4-5. Now the 1-4-5 is major. The 6th chord in any key is always minor. So 1-6-4-5 in the key of G, if I think about it, I'd have G, which is 1. My 6 would be E. My 4 would be C, and my 5 would be D. So I'm playing G, E minor, C, D, and it sounds like this. And it gives you that doo-wop kind of sound. So by adding that 1 minor chord, that 6th chord in there, all of a sudden you take this traditional 1-4-5 and make it sound like this. Let me show you this. This is kind of cool. You probably know this song, so.
Oh, where can my baby be? So I have to be good, so I can see my baby when I leave this world.
So popular songs use these kind of common chord progressions.
This is super cool, dude. Now, the whole point of, I think, learning chord progressions is, and by the way, I'm trying to get a better signal here. Is this any better or not?
Your video is pretty bad. Your audio is pretty good, though. Your beard
okay.
looks really, really nice, though. I like that.
It's looking kind of gray. I think my kids, this is all my kids right here, the gray coming out right here. So I think the big point about chord progressions is that once you understand, let me just kill my camera here so maybe you guys can hear me a little better. The whole point of chord progressions is when you can recognize them by ear, you can instantly kind of pick up those songs that you were just, when you're listening to a song, you will start to recognize certain chord progressions, and you can go, oh, that's a 2-5-1, or that's a 6-2-5-1, or whatever the case may be. You can hear it, and then you can actually play it, because there's a certain chord progressions are basically patterns, and there's common ones. And once you memorize the common ones, it sure makes figuring out songs a heck of a lot easier.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, is when you first start learning how to play guitar, you learn chords, and you're learning how to move from G, C, and D. Well, eventually, you get out of all of that, and you stop thinking about things as keys, G, C, D, and you start thinking about things as progressions. Like when I was a kid, I used to listen to a lot of metal, a lot of hard rock, and once I started learning that they would all do the same thing. So once you learn what they're doing, Judas Priest would do a lot of the same things that Thin Lizzy would do, which is a lot of the same things that Iron Maiden would do. That's the beauty of learning your theory and understanding those common chord progressions.
Sure. Super cool, dude. So we've covered the major scale, we've covered the harmonized scale, we've covered chord progressions. Now let's talk about transposing. So maybe you could take that exact same Pearl Jam song and move it into a different key to kind of explain what you mean by transposition.
Sure. Well, transposition would be exactly what he just said. I'm going to play the same chord progression, but I'm going to play in a different key. So I'll play it for you and then just talk about it for a second. So I'll play that same thing I just did. Now here's the key of C. The nice thing about transposition is that if you're ever in a situation, and I don't want to waste your time, but I was playing for a wedding one time for somebody that I knew, and this lady that was singing this song, she flew in from some other state, and she was going to sing the song. Well, I had learned the song in album key, like I normally would, and when she showed up, she had learned it off some karaoke track that was in a completely different key.
Nice.
So either she was going to have to shift or I was going to have to shift. Well, as long as I knew what the chord progression was, I just moved it to whatever key her voice was in. So.
Yeah. I'll give you another example of how that's helpful is when you're jamming with somebody that has a very limited knowledge of scales, and let's say they want to play a lead. Maybe it's a keyboard player, maybe it's a bass player, maybe it's a vocalist like you mentioned. But, if you're playing with a horn section or whatever, and there's some guys that are not too familiar with like whatever chord progression that you might be using, the guy goes, dude, I'm like a master at the A scale, but I can't really play in G or whatever. Then you could just move your rhythm section up.
Right. Well, and I see that a couple people had asked about that. If you've got a real good natural ability of ear training, and you're not thinking about it in terms of chords, that's awesome. But if you're in a band, or you're composing music for an artist, or you're writing for a commercial, which I've done all those kind of things, you need to be able to speak the language. You can't just show up and go, well, it's this thingy to this thingy. They want to know what you're talking about. And if you're on the clock and time is money, when you walk in and you go, okay, guys, we need to move this to the key of whatever, we're going to change this, we're going to rearrange this, that's where music theory becomes absolutely essential, because theory really is language. That's what it is.
Right.
It's language. Yeah. It's not just moving around the fretboard. It's understanding each other in the musical realm. So
exactly. Yep. I give the example of I was in Spain one time, and the further south you go in Spain, the less English people speak. And by the time I got to the very end, like down near Granada, I was like, dude, I can't communicate with these people. And it was a very bad feeling. And it's kind of the same thing when you're around a group of musicians and they're speaking the language of music, which is theory, then you're kind of an outsider if you don't know what the heck people are talking about. And I've been in that position too.
Right.
And I remember at a certain point in my life saying, "Dadgummit, I am going to learn this stuff. I'm going to master this stuff because I don't like feeling stupid. I don't like feeling like the only guy in the room that doesn't know what a dominant chord is."
Well, and that's the thing. Let's be honest. Your playing, my playing, everybody's playing comes down to your ability of being confident with what you're doing. And you're always being thrown, like when you start playing with other musicians and stuff, you know, your talent and your confidence sometimes gets thrown to the wolves because you're dealing with other people. The better you know your fretboard and the better you understand the language of what you're trying to deal with, the more confident you are and the more options you wind up getting. So,
yeah. So, hey guys, I just want to address something real quick. I see a bunch of awesome comments that are coming in, and I'm reading those, and Steve's reading those as they come, as best we can. Just be patient with us. We're going to try to get to a Q&A session towards the end. But also, I see a bunch of people saying, you know, has the webinar started? The voice doesn't sound so good. The video doesn't look so good. Yeah, we thought there were going to be like 200 people here, and there's 617 right now on this call. So we're like taking up in fact, when I tried to log in, it said this call is full. And I was like, crap, I guess I get kicked out. Okay. So just if you guys could be a little patient with us, it'd be awesome. It's just there's a ton of people on the call, and it just keeps going up, which is awesome. So yeah. Okay, so let's jump through. We've covered 1, 2, 3, and 4. We just covered transposition. Now, let's talk about how to make any major scale minor. And then we'll give an example, and we'll let you play a minor solo, and we'll let everybody rate your solo. By the way, I think you got a 98% approval rating on the yay on the major scale solo. So we'll see if you can pour.
That's not bad. I don't mind that. So what happens is once you really learn the theory of your chromatic scale, which becomes your major scale, then what you do is you learn how to convert your major scale simply into minor scales. And let me just play you a little bit. So, for instance, if I was playing the key of C, I'll go back to that. You'll notice that my root sound, my tonic, is C. So when I go, the C is the primary sound that gives the music its tonality, or its home base, if you will. If I take that same exact scale and I play exactly the same notes, but I just go to A and emphasize A, which is the 6th note in the key of C, it sounds like this.
Okay, so let me repeat what you just said in case anybody dozed off. Now would be a good time to sit back up in your chair and hear this, because if you get this one thing, man, like a light bulb can go off in your head. Okay, Steve said we were talking about how to take a major scale and go to minor. So you go to the major scale, right? And he was playing the notes in the C scale. To make it minor, all he did was he went to the 6th note in the C scale, which happens to be A, and then played from A all the notes up that C scale until you get to G and then back down, and that's called your natural minor or your relative minor of C. So C major and A minor have the same notes, but you're emphasizing a different root note. So in the key of C major, you're emphasizing C. In the key of A minor, you're emphasizing A, although the notes happen to be the same.
The other cool thing, of course, is that when you're in the key of C, you're emphasizing a major chord. When you're in A minor, you're emphasizing the minor sound. So you're using the same chords, you're using the same notes, you're just reordering them. You're just calling, in the key of C, you're just calling it A minor because you're emphasizing that 6th chord.
Nice.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Okay, and then once you memorize the notes all the way across the fretboard, you can do cool stuff like you're about to show us. And I'm going to get my poll ready.
Right.
Cue up your jam track, Steve.
Now remember, everything I was just doing in the key of C major, and when I first did that static C thing, I can do all the same stuff in the key of A minor. The difference is I'm just going to try and target the A's a bit more. So here we go. You see, it's still
Wow.
C. I'm still playing in the key of C, but I'm targeting A's. I'm emphasizing A's along with the rhythm track. So.
Right, exactly. You really do play well, dude.
Thank you.
I mean, you really can shred. I sometimes forget because, so much of our stuff is like really, pedagogical and we're actually teaching all the time. And then just to hear you play, it's like, dang, dude, yeah, you really can play.
And that's why I'm telling everybody, it's awesome to be able to play, but I'm not lying to you. Once you get to the point where you can kind of start understanding what you're trying to do while you're soloing versus just moving around, it makes all the difference in the world in the way you feel, in the way you play, and the way people respond to you. It's just awesome.
Yeah, I totally agree, dude. So the minor scale is huge, and the big takeaway on that point, guys, is that the minor scale and the major scale are just two sides of the same coin. Okay, they share the same notes, but you're just emphasizing a different root note, and therefore the sound is completely different. One sounds happy, one kind of sounds sad, and a little bit ominous. All right, so let's go on to point number 6, and this is shortcut secrets. Number 6: how to turn 5 chords into 60. Or another way to look at this is, and I just thought of this earlier today, Steve, when I was looking over our notes. It's how to take any chord that you currently know, okay, and play it in 5 different ways. Right? So let's say, for example, guys, that you only know how to play a C chord using the cowboy style chord, open strings. Okay, so that's probably one of the first chords you learn as a young guitarist or a beginner guitarist. Yeah. So how would you play that chord in 5 different ways, Steve?
Okay, well, you use what's referred to as the caged chording system, which can be used to elevate both your rhythm and your soloing skills. But basically what I'm going to do is I want to cover the entire fretboard with a C chord or a G chord or whatever it might be. I'm just going to use a C as an example. So there's my open C. So what I do is, the concept of caged is you're literally taking the C shape, the A shape, the G shape, the E shape, and the D shape, and you're connecting them together like a puzzle piece. That's how the fretboard really works. It's pretty cosmic, but basically what I'm doing is I'm taking the C chord, which is in its own position right now, and I'm going to connect it to the A shape. So watch this. If I take this C chord, I take that 3rd finger, which is on the note C right now on the 5th string, and I connect it to the A shape. So I'm going to bar across the 3rd fret and make an A shape with my ring finger. Some of you would know this as a 5th string bar chord. See, now I've got a C and a C. Now they sound a little different because of the inversion, the note arrangement. Okay, then I'm going to go to a G shape. So I'm going to go from this A shape, which is making C, where my 3rd finger is. I'm going to press over that. I'm going to make a G chord with my other fingers. Now my ring finger is on C up here on the 8th fret. And then where my 3rd finger is, I'm going to bar over that. I'm going to make the E shape, and I've got C again. Where my pinky is, I'm going to bar over that, and I'm going to make a D shape, and I've got C again. So I can do this. So I can play C anywhere across the fretboard. So instead of always thinking about blocking chords, like moving up and down, you could actually learn to take all your chords or whatever song you're playing and just culminate it into one spot on the guitar.
This is sweet, dude. Okay, and I'm gonna totally throw you under the bus because this is totally unrehearsed. Let's see if you can pass this test. Because
Okay.
I know I'm confident I couldn't. So I want to see if you could do it. Let's take a simple chord progression, like let's say. Well, I'll give you the option of whatever the chords you want to choose. But let's start it with C.
Okay, let's just do a 1-4-5.
Okay, 1-4-5 in the key of C. And why don't you play that in 5 different ways, that chord progression in 5 different ways.
Okay, so obviously you could play, we're talking about C, F, and G, right? So I could play, I'll get the obvious ones out of the way. This is what most people would do. You'd have C here, you'd have F here, you'd have G here, and there's nothing wrong with it. That's fine. You might play C right here. C, F, G, that would be the bar chord, right? 1-4-5. But let's say we did something a little bit cooler. Let's say I took the C chord, and instead of going from C, F, G, which would be another 1, 4, 5, that's 3 positions, but I want to do something cooler with it. Let's say I take the C chord, and I play this C, which is the A shape. So I take my first finger, and I play those 3 notes right there. Now my 4 chord is F. Now watch this. This is so awesome because this defined the Doobie Brothers and Kiss and all those bands of the 70s for me. I can take I want to go to F. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the C shape. My pinky's on F right now. So I can play C here and F here. Now I'm going to drop the pinky and I'm going to play this, and you're going to be familiar with this sound. See, so I'm going from C to F, C to F. Now, if I wanted to go to G, which is the 5 chord, I've got the D shape of G, and I know it gets confusing until you learn this, but I've got that sitting here too. It's right here. So I could go C, F, C. So it's awesome.
So cool.
Like I play in the worship band at my church a lot, and what we do is if the other guitar player is playing cowboy chords, as Dan called them, the C and the G and that sort of thing, they're already getting that blocky sound. So then what I do is I find a caged element somewhere else on the fretboard, so the 2 sounds are kind of blending together. Instead of both of us just hammering away at a C and a G and a D chord down in the open position, it actually sounds really nice. Or I might make little riffs, like I might be doing something where I'm going. Something like that. So I'm still playing the chords, but I'm doing them in more of what we call an arpeggiated shape. So
love it, dude.
Yeah.
That is super cool. So the cage system, man, is just—it's mind-blowing, and that's actually only one of the 12 weeks of this class is on the caged. So that just gives you an idea. I mean, we actually have a whole course. Steve has a whole course called Caged. It was a Caged Explained or Cage Made Easy?
Cage Made Easy, yeah.
Yeah. Mine was Cage Explained, which I did years ago, but I actually think you did a better job of it at Cage Made Easy. Okay, that's awesome, dude. So that's going to be one of the weeks of this class. And okay, so we've covered 6 of the concepts that we wanted to cover here, the 6 of these music theory shortcuts. Let's go to number 7, which is chord inversions. Chord inversions. What do we even mean when we're talking about chord inversions?
Well, usually inversion means that you're just flipping the order of it. So instead of like when you traditionally play an inversion, you might be playing, for instance, the root, the 3rd, and the 5th, which is how chords are traditionally played. Like on a piano, you'd play root, 3rd, 5th if you play any piano. An inversion just simply means that you're going to flip those. You're going to invert the arrangement of those notes to get a different kind of sound, and it's actually happening. When you play like the cage system, and that you are inverting those sounds. But that's what inversion is.
Well, let me ask you this. How would you tie that into arpeggios?
Well, I use inversions a lot. Like when I'm dealing with arpeggios, for instance, if I was going to play a C arpeggio, I've got the notes, okay, and I could keep going. So an inversion could be any number of those. Normally, an inversion would mean you're starting with your root and playing the 3rd and 5th, right? I could play that like this. I could play it here. Playing all over the place. Anywhere I want to go, I can play those notes to create that particular sound. So an inversion just says that what I'm going to do is instead of playing the root, 3rd, 5th, I might play them in a different order. So if I went like this, see now I'm playing a different group of the same 3 notes, but notice how much different it sounds. And it's actually really neat sometimes when you drop the root. Sometimes when you get away from always playing the root, it can really make a chord sound interesting because the root chord, how important it is, which it is, but with a guitar player sometimes inversions are nice to play because they're thinner, they cut through better, where the bass player is probably playing all those bass notes.
Yes, I was just about to say that. You stole my thunder.
Yeah.
So a lot of times that's a perfect reason to be using an inverted chord. So he was just playing the C chord there, but then he took it, instead of having C as the lowest note, he had E, which is the first inversion of that chord. So instead of C E G, he's playing E G C, And then your bass player or your keyboard player has that root note down there, not rut note, but the root note down there, like C. So that's a great example of, and man, that's one thing that separates rookies from more experienced players. When you hear a player that's always playing in root position, you're like, yeah, okay, it's cool, it sounds cool, but then once you get it in your head, like, oh man, it's the same exact notes, I can just flip it, and then the bass player is playing that note, or the keyboard player is playing that note. I don't have to always play the root. I don't always have to play the fifth. For example, in seventh chords, you can drop the fifth out a lot. Right. And again, guys, I know this maybe sound complicated, but I promise you, it's just a system. It's just you'll understand that the notes are C, E, and G, and in inversion, you just take the C and you put it on the top. Okay, right. It's hard to get your mind wrapped around it right now, but
right.
Of course.
And for some of you, it's really important for you to understand, even when you walk away from this webinar, having the idea that you've been learning how to play chords, whether they're open chords or six-string bar chords or whatever, but start realizing that you don't have to play the entire shape all the time. That's even just that idea for you to walk away from this webinar thinking, well, I learned how to play C and I've always strummed 5 strings because that's what my teacher told me to do. That doesn't mean that you always have to. It means that there's availability to strum 5, but sometimes, if you just strum the bottom, you can get more of a U2 kind of thing happening, which sounds just awesome by exploring different sounds with the chords that you can make. It's just really neat.
1,000,000% agree, dude.
Yeah.
Okay, this is good stuff. So we've covered the major scale. We've covered number 2 was the harmonized major scale. Number 3 was chord progressions. Number 4 was transposition. Number 5 was the major minor scale, or sorry, how to make any major scale minor. Number 6 was the caged system. Number 7 is chord inversions. We're on to shortcut number 8, which is building chords from scratch with intervals. And for me, this was a big aha moment, dude, was understanding what an interval is and how it's applied, that you can build up any chord, and especially when you're looking at a lead sheet or you're looking at just where a chord has a name but not a fretboard diagram.
Yes.
And that sucker says G9, and you're like, what the heck is that? Now you'll be able to know once you understand intervals, because the ninth is just simply an added note to a dominant 7th chord. Okay? So let's, for example, Steve, tell us what intervals are and then give us an example.
Okay, well, an interval, like we just talked about, and this will go into Lisa's question up there too. An interval, traditionally, when you talk about music theory, you're talking about 3 notes, which is a root, a third, and a fifth. And those 3 notes, those first 3 notes are absolutely crucial because those define the quality of that chord, whether the chord's going to be major, whether the chord's going to be minor, or whether the chord is going to be diminished. So it's imperative that you learn how that works. Now, Lisa asked, can 2 strings be a real chord? Technically, in theory, it can't be, because you're supposed to have 3 notes, a root, a third, and a fifth. Okay? But if you think about it, for a lot of you rockers out there, you play power chords. The Ramones for you. A power chord is just a root and a fifth. It's lacking the third. So the reason people love power chords so much is because they don't really sound major or minor. They have their own unique rock and roll sound to them. So I always call it the theory of rock and roll. In Western culture, that wouldn't be considered a chord, but in the theory of rock and roll, we absolutely want to call that a chord.
Yeah, power chord, baby.
That's right. So a triad. So when he's talking about intervals and building a chord, we're starting with a root, third, fifth, and then we start expanding into more colorful sounds like the 7th, or the 9th, or the 11th, or the 13th. We're adding more notes of the scale, not just the root and the third and the fifth, but we start adding in other notes into that chord to expand it and make it thicker and more colorful. Sometimes maybe even too colorful, but that's what happens. And we see that a lot in jazz, where we don't see that a lot in like pop music. You don't really color them that much. But they're fun as a guitar player because it changes up the tonality of what it is that you're doing with the chords. Like when I play blues, I love to use things that are thicker and more unique.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So give us an example, Steve, of creating a chord and just kind of identify the intervals for us here. Let's say it's going to be like one of the questions we got is from Paul. He says, what's a dominant chord? So maybe you could build a dominant, let's say an A dominant 7, starting with maybe 6-string root.
Okay, so an A dominant 7 again would be the root, the third, and the fifth, but then we're adding on the dominant seventh, which is root, third, fifth, seventh. So I would have to play A, C sharp, E, but then I need to add in the note G. So literally I could do this. You can hear how if I just play the triad, it sounds like that. But if I add that seventh in, and you can hear it more if I change the inversion again of the chord up here, and I go. And dominant sevenths are killer chords for playing like blues and funk stuff, which was what I was doing earlier. If I go. So blues likes to use what we refer to as a dominant seventh.
Yeah.
So,
hey, brother, you're sounding good, but when you play the guitar, it's a little bit loud for me personally.
okay.
Maybe you just
Let me
back
bring it
up
down a little bit.
Yeah, I know you don't have your monitor in your ear there. Okay, so let's see. A bit off topic. We'd like to know what makes the difference colors of different genres. Man, that's deep. Let me jump back for a second. Don wants to talk about slash chords. Don't play the whole chord. There was one question I wanted to ask. So, Claudio says, so power chords are never major or minor. They are just power chords? Question mark. Yes.
That's correct.
Because
that's why. That's right. That's why when you play a power chord, you as a guitar player can infer that that chord is major or minor by the way you solo. If I do this, and I go, I can make it sound happy.
Major.
But if I go, I can make it sound dark or sadder depending on what I do. That's why rock players love power chords, because we can decide what we want to do with them.
Yeah, I love it. Sean asked a cool question. He says, Steve, to construct a chord, you also need to be familiar. Oh man, there's so many chats coming. I lost it. It keeps bumping down as I start to read. Sean says, to construct a chord, you also need to be familiar with half and whole steps, correct, or involved, right? Yes. That's one way to think about it. The way I think about it, Sean, is I just think about what notes are in the scale. So let's say, for example, that the C scale that we've been talking about, I know that from C to D is a major second, from C to E. Well, Steve, how about you demonstrate this?
Well,
Do you want to identify the intervals of the major scale for us?
You want the all of them? So
Every
for instance,
single
C
one
to D, like C to D is a whole step, or this is a major second, and then C to E would be a third, a major third. Then you've got your C to F, which is a fourth, a perfect fourth. You've got your C to G, which is a perfect fifth. You've got your C to A, which is your sixth, your major sixth, and then you've got C to B, which is, C to B, which is your major seventh. Okay, so to answer his question even further, there's a number of different ways, Sean, that you can look at intervals and learning those. And in this course, what I do is I show you the logical way of building things from learning your intervals to applying those intervals to scales, to applying those intervals to chords, and then across your fretboard. But then I also show you kind of cheat shortcuts on how to find things very quickly when you don't have availability of a key. Like if somebody says D minor and you don't know what key you're in, to be able to figure out what the notes are of a D minor chord or a G7 chord or whatever it is very quickly off the top of your head. It was something that I had to develop when I was in college because I wasn't as good at key signatures as a lot of my tuba and clarinet and those players that were in my classes. They were very quick with that. So I figured out a really cool shortcut, and I show you how to do all that kind of stuff too.
Awesome. Hey, Steve, we now have, we said we're going to do 200 people on this thing. There's 636 people right now live on this call. So, apparently, let me just ask a quick little question here. I want to ask something. Please take a second to vote, and we'll make these. My question to you guys is, are you digging what we're talking about? Do you like what we're talking about? Is this resonating with you?
Right.
And if not, tell us, and we'll change topics here.
Right. Obviously, some of this stuff gets a little bit too hard for some people and a little bit not hard enough for other people, and that's really the point of the course, is that you're going to absorb at the tempo that you want, and you're going to either be working mostly on what things mean in your head or what things mean with your fingers, and both of those are included. Everything
Nice.
I talk about is both of those. So
So it looks like, Steve, you have a 98% woohoo approval rating, and only 2%
I like woohoo.
said-
Woohoo
2%
makes me
said
happy. Oh, yeah. I can't please everybody.
No. So, okay, cool. So let me just kind of get an idea of where we should be talking in terms of our, complexity here. Let me just ask a simple question, guys. If you could vote on the question at hand, which is how many notes are in a pentatonic minor scale? How many notes are in a pentatonic minor scale?
Ooh, throwing a curveball.
Yeah. So pentatonic, guys. So it looks like almost everybody knows that there are 5 notes in a pentatonic scale. Okay, that's good. Let's do another one, guys. Let's do how many notes are in a diatonic scale? How many notes in a diatonic scale? Whoa, look at that. Okay, so there is some confusion about diatonic. What the heck does diatonic even mean, dude?
Well, diatonic means 7 from the root. So if you think about it, always think of your diatonic. All music theory starts with the do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do scale. Yes, even Metallica and even Slayer, believe me. It all still starts with, it does. It all still starts with this, that scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. So it's a 7-note scale.
So a diatonic scale, guys, has 7 notes. 7 notes. Okay, so let's do one more here.
And for those of you that are wondering about pentatonic, pentatonic is a scale down diatonic. You took your diatonic and you threw out 2 notes to create a pentatonic scale. They're still related.
They are. Okay, guys, so this is a more difficult question. Which is the dominant 7th chord of D major? If you don't know, just guess. It's okay. Because one of the questions that we got.
D major.
Do you know the answer to this, Steve?
Yes, I do know the answer to this. You're throwing them. I want to see what people get here.
Well, people can cheat these days. You got the old Google. You can go look it up real fast. But one of the questions that we did get was, what's a dominant chord? So, how do you know, Steve? I keep seeing the results filter in. About 60% of the people have this question right. The answer to this question, guys, is A7 chord.
Yep.
So, Steve, show us the notes of D major and then play the dominant 7th of D major.
Okay, so again, remember, when we say dominant, we're actually talking about the 5 chord. So when he said, what's the dominant 7th chord of D major, when he says dominant, he's talking about the 5. So we go, which is A. And the 5 chord in any major key, it doesn't matter what key you're in, the 5 chord is always a dominant 7th sound, which is that bluesy sound. That's what it is.
Okay, so the answer, guys, is the dominant 7th of D major is A7. A7. Okay, cool. So let's do one more of this. This is kind of fun. I like getting people's feedback. How about this one? How would you write?
And you guys, like Steven, you're asking dominant meaning root, dominant meaning 5, and those are things that we're going to talk about in the course, and you're actually going to get live classes too, where you and I are going to talk about all of these things and answer your questions.
Yes.
So
this one is, how do you write a dominant E flat sharp 9, which would be called a dominant, it would be called an altered chord, because when you talk about altered chords, you're talking about altering a particular note, either up or down a half step.
Yep.
There you go.
E flat, yeah, you'd have an E flat 7 with a raised 9, which is the Jimi Hendrix chord. This is the now E flat. Now Jimi Hendrix 2.5 step down. And that's why you'd see it as E flat 7 sharp 9. I'm not 2.5 steps, so I'm just going to play it in E so you can hear what it sounds like. But this is the Purple Haze chord. So again,
Sweet.
very funky and very useful in blues and obviously funk music. So
Nice. So the answer to that question, guys, is you would have the sharp would be in front of the ninth. I kind of tricked you there by putting the sharp after the 9. So 82% of you got that question right, so that's impressive. Good job, guys.
woo.
All right, so I think we're right on track, man. I think we're speaking at hopefully a level that's touching a lot of different people, whether they're kind of beginner, intermediate, or advanced. We're kind of collectively, this is foundational stuff, and it's always good to review, even if you already know it. So we've covered 7 things. Let's go to number 8, which is building chords from scratch with intervals. Actually, we already did that.
Yep, we did
We're on
that.
to number 9, dude. Number 7. I'm sorry. Number 9 of our shortcuts, we're going to talk about the 7 modes, and this is actually an entire section of this course as well. And by the way, guys, if you stay with us to the end, we're going to give out a link so that you can get Steve's Play Modes Now course for free, as in free beer. We're just going to give out a link. You go over, just go down the page, click on it, and then put your email address in, and you're going to have an account with us, and you're going to get the course for free, and also my Scale Chord Relationships course, just for staying with us to the end of the webinar, which right now, dude, we've been going for how long? An hour.
Almost an hour. We were running a little late. Hey, Babs, you just said would be tough for a beginner, I believe, and the truth is this course is actually really good for beginners because it starts off at the very beginning. It's a 12-week course, and it really does, it gets you prepped from the very beginning all the way through. We just have only a limited amount of time in the webinar to try and kind of throw you some tips, and hopefully everybody's kind of grabbing something. But it really is something that any guitar player could use to sort of understand more about what you're doing on the guitar, from a beginner to an intermediate to a professional player.
Sweet. Okay, guys, so we have 629 people on the call still, so I'm still getting kind of like a lag from Steve, and so if you're experiencing some bandwidth issues here, it's kind of the video quality isn't that great, please just hang with us. I apologize. There's just about 3 times as many people here as I thought there would be. Okay, so let's do this. Steve, let's talk about the modes, and take it away, dude.
Okay, well, basically, if you think about what I just said about being in the key of, you're always in a major key, right? Everything about music is in the do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do scale. So what happens is we introduce the idea of the minor, where you could go to the 6th chord, and that 6th chord is called the relative minor. And what you're really doing is you're in the key of C, but you're just emphasizing the A minor, which is the 6th chord. And people always ask me, well, if that's the case, then why can't you emphasize the 2 chord? Or why can't you emphasize the 3 chord? And the truth is you can. But when you start doing that, now you have more major chords and more minor chords. You don't just have one of each. So we have to give them specific names. So when you say something like a modal scale, mode means degree. That's all it really means. So if you said to me D Dorian, all D Dorian means to me, Dorian means 2. So you're telling me to emphasize the D chord, Dorian means 2, which means we're really in the key of C. So that's all really modes are, is understanding that when somebody says something like Ionian means 1, Dorian means 2, Phrygian means 3. So if you said E Phrygian, you're telling me to emphasize the 3rd chord, which is E, which would be E if I move back D, if I move back C. So I'm still in the key of C. That's how modes work. So for instance, let me pull up some music here. Let you listen to the modes. So this would be C major, just the C major that we've been talking about. Okay, here I go.
1, 2, 3,
Hey, Steve.
Yeah.
Too much rhythm, not enough lead. Volume.
Okay, I'm going to bring the rhythm down so it doesn't overdrive. So here we go.
Okay.
So I'm just playing C and C. That's all I'm doing, is doing what I normally would do. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same scale, but I'm going to emphasize the D minor chord. So I'm going to use the same stuff I was just doing, but the rhythm underneath is going to be emphasizing the D minor chord, which we would call D Dorian. This is what it would sound like. Okay, now let me show you one more.
Which mode was that?
That was D Dorian, so it was still the C major scale, but the emphasis chord is D. Now this one gets even weirder. Here's the third one. Now I'm going to emphasize the third chord, which is E minor, C, E minor, E minor. So I'm going to emphasize the third chord, which is E minor.
So we're using Phrygian.
Yep, so, and when we emphasize the third chord, we call it Phrygian. And you're going to notice it begins to sound a bit more like this.
So wait, hang on, before you take off.
Yep.
So you're emphasizing the third chord, Phrygian, okay, and so the root note of your solo is going to be E.
That's right. So I'm in the key of C, and I'm using the chords of the key of C. I'm still in the key of C, but my root chord is E. My root chord is E minor.
Okay.
So in my solo, I'm playing C major, but I am aware of the fact that I want to acknowledge the E minor sound, right? So again, instead of just going and making everything sound like C, if I go down to the E, and boom, there it is. And start getting that sound. I'm still in C. I'm just emphasizing the sound of the E, and it would sound like this.
That's sweet, dude.
Yeah, it's really
I
neat.
love that Phrygian sound. Hey, can you show us the difference between the Phrygian and, let's say, E Phrygian and E minor?
Well, E Phrygian would look like this, because I'd have that half step. So it's got that half step between the first and the second notes, which is what makes it sound kind of exotic. E minor, on the other hand, does not have that. E minor has a whole step in between there. So the point of the modes and learning all of that kind of stuff is those intervals that are different are the ones that you want to spend a lot of time trying to emphasize in your solo, because that's what people are going to hear when you're soloing. If you're just ripping through everything and nobody can really hear those, it's hard to identify it. But if I'm playing an E Phrygian and I'm going, and I'm using a lot of that kind of sound, it's going to begin to sound more like the Phrygian that it is.
Steve, I'm asking a poll. Guys, I want you guys to vote on this real quick. I'm going to say... Okay, you guys will see it here. Do you believe modes are only... What I should say is, do you believe modes are only for shredders? But I actually wrote, do you believe modes are only for shredders? So, okay, so awesome. 96% of you said no, and you're absolutely right. Modes can be used in all styles of music. So good job, guys.
Right. The cool thing about modes, everybody, and just diatonic in general, is those notes that are not in the pentatonic. Pentatonic is a wonderful scale that we use for all kinds of different things. But to be honest with you, the pentatonic is just not very colorful. Sometimes that's exactly what you're looking for. But when you move into diatonics or you move into modes, the beauty of it is the colors that it creates. And that's so you don't always have to play fast. It's the sounds that you're getting. Dorian is just a really pretty sound. I love the sound of Dorian.
I do too. I love Phrygian too. Hey guys, I want to ask a simple question. I've already asked this earlier, but I know we have some new people here. If you're digging this webinar, if you're digging this kind of live interaction, please let me know. Steve and I, this is actually only my second webinar I've ever done in my life. I've always been scared of doing this because the technology freaks me out, and I'm like, I'm freaked out actually right now. There's still 634 people on this call and like live, and it's just for me because I don't know, I'm just worried. I worry too much. So I guess my question is, if you guys like this kind of thing and you'd like us to do this maybe more often, let me know. Only 2% said not really, so 98% approval. So maybe this is something that we should start doing more often. Another thing I wanted to ask you guys is this. Man, I should have, next time I'll know to create all these things ahead of time, but want to attend a live class, as in come and hang out with Steve and all of his guitar buddies, and maybe we could get my buddy Griff Hamlin to come, and maybe we could talk Marty into coming or something. I don't know. But if you guys would like it, we thought about maybe having that in LA, because Griff's out here, Marty's out here, we could fly Steve out here, we could, plus you got the Musicians Institute, which they have a few guitarists that know how to do things over there. Maybe we could invite them to come over and hang out. But if you guys would like to do a live clinic that was maybe 2 or 3 days long, or maybe 1 day long, I don't know. So 95% of people said yes to that. That's awesome. Let me ask you guys one more question. Would you, how long should clinic be? Think about it for a second. I'm going to say 1 day, 2 days, or 3 days. That would be a hoss of a clinic. So if you guys came to LA, or maybe we go to somewhere more central like Chicago, or, dude, 60%, 55% of people said 3 days. We'd have to have like 10 guitars.
I'd love it. That'd be awesome.
I would too. I would too. Okay.
Then we
So
could actually jam. You know, then we could actually spend time jamming, actually playing together and stuff like that.
That would be super cool. We could have some star students come up and jam. Okay, sweet, dude. All right, so let's press on here, guys. I really appreciate your feedback. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you being here. Again, there's now up to 638 people here with us. We were expecting like 200, so that's great. One more thing is just a quick reminder. If you hang with us all the way to the end of this webinar, we're going to give you 2 free courses. We're going to give out a special link where you can go and download these courses. Klaus says, take beer, Dan. It keeps you calm. You must have been on the other night when you bailed on me, and I was here for like an hour and a half answering questions. Charlie says, I vote for Nashville. Nashville is really a booming place, and actually, you know, Steve Krenz from Learn and Master is over in Nashville, so that would probably be pretty cool.
Yeah, I saw a lot of stuff for Chicago, too.
Yeah, bring it to Alabama. Sweet home Alabama. Love it. Okay, cool. So we've talked about modes. Now, this is something pretty cool for me. There is a section in this course, guys, that we're going to talk about exotic scales. Okay? Now, you may be thinking, you know, what the heck is an exotic scale? So, Steve, show us, what is an exotic scale, and what do people even mean when they say that?
Well, an exotic scale is when you're taking the traditional do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do scale and you're altering it on purpose. You're changing something about it on purpose. You're changing the half steps and whole steps to get a different kind of sound. So, for instance, one that I like to use a lot because I am a rock guy is that I'll use what's called the harmonic minor. And all I'm really doing is I'm taking the, I'll do it in E. I'm just taking an E minor scale. And I'm just playing from E to E. But if I take that 7th note and I raise it up, then you get more half steps. The intervals change a little bit, so that half step to the root becomes. And then traditionally what I do is, again, in the rock and roll theory, I use it in a lot of my rock and metal stuff. I'll use that scale even where it's not supposed to exist. I'll implement it in just to get a different kind of sound in my playing.
Dude, okay, so this is actually my favorite part of the webinar the other day, so I can't wait for this, because I know you rock at harmonic minor. So get your finger ready, guys. Get your finger ready. We're gonna vote on Steve's solo.
Well, you gotta get your two fingers ready like this. This is what you gotta do right here.
Woo! Woo!
All right, so
Alrighty
here's a
then.
jam track here. I can't hear my jam track. So there's a little bit of Phrygian in there, right? So I can pop back and forth between all of these things, which is what makes it really fun. I could do like pentatonic. So you can kind of move between all of these different things.
You're crazy, dude. Yeah, so I think that's a big takeaway, guys. One person earlier asked, you know, when you were playing that Dorian mode, if you were kind of combining some other things, and the answer is yes, because once you get this stuff in your bones, guys, you can't not incorporate the other scales. Okay, so you know, even though Steve, I'm sure, was, you know, from a teaching standpoint, was trying to like be okay, I only need to play Dorian. It's like you can't help but incorporate pentatonic minor, pentatonic major, some altered scale,
Blues.
mode, blues. You know, you can't help it. So that's the beauty of when you get all of this stuff and you learn it. Man, it really opens up so many doors for you that you're actually able to just express yourself. And look, everybody understands that theory is kind of heady and kind of like you know, difficult to understand, but the point of learning theory, for me, I think, is that it gives you the tools to be able to express yourself.
That's exactly it. That's the most important thing. Is I don't sit here and pretend like I'm the best guitar player on the planet. I'm just comfortable with the things that I like to do. I'm a rock guitar player that does pop stuff and major stuff, and I suck at country and I suck at jazz, and I know what I'm good at, and that's what I keep trying to accentuate. So when I go to play, I'm comfortable. When I get in front of a stage, or when I get on stage in front of 1,000 people, or whatever it might be, I'm comfortable, and that's what I want you to be able to do too. Is just when you go to do something, you're not scared of the situation. You just own it. You just go and do your thing.
Yep, absolutely, dude. Okay, guys, we've been on here for quite a while. My battery is getting kind of dead, so I'm gonna have to go grab my what do you call that thing? Power charger. I'm sitting down here in my kid's room so that I can be right next to this thing. So hopefully it would do better bandwidth. I don't know, guys, but
I had somebody that asked if you need to go grab that. I'm going to jam a little bit. I had somebody that asked about playing more clean for people that aren't interested in the metal stuff. So I'll show you a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to go.
Sweet, thank you. Be right back.
Yep. So I'm going to go with more of a bluesy approach here, and I'm going to play a couple of things. So this first song here, this one is in G, and I'll show you again. This one's in the key of G. So I'm going to take this. I'm going to combine the G major scale with arpeggios, and I'm also going to use some of the cage system in there. And I'll just play a little bit, and I'll show you kind of how to create melody, which is really, really important to your playing as well, by following these chords around a little bit. that sound right there? That. Okay. You see that? So the awesome thing about learning your fretboard and learning about this stuff, and this is something that I found the hard way when I was younger, because I learned to play a lot of rock stuff and I learned to play a lot of metal stuff, but when it came to really learning how to play melodically, it took a while because I really needed to learn more about my fretboard. Learning, to be honest with you, when you're jamming rock stuff, it's easy to just kind of whip, well, it's not easy, but there's a system to learning how to kind of rip through everything. But theory enables you to think, what are my chords? What are the notes in those chords? What scale options do I have? Okay, and how can I kind of combine this all to make something that sounds melodic? See what I mean? Now let's say I took that a step further here, and let's say I did some blues for you, okay? So I'm going to do a B. I'm going to do something in G. That way, so one of you had a question about using blues, using modes in blues. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the G. This is a G major chord progression, 1, 4, 5. And of course, they're probably dominant 7th chords. And I'm going to use the G minor pentatonic, the G major pentatonic, but I'm also going to incorporate Dorian, and I'll show you what that sounds like here in just a second. So here we go. There we go. So I go to my 4 chord. I'm going to do a little Dorian. You see? So even in a blues situation, I don't have to just feel like I'm playing pentatonic all the time. Pentatonic is an awesome scale. But the awesome part is if I know some of my modal things, I can move out of that and start doing other things. So just something to kind of think about a little bit as you're learning these things, that the goal with music theory isn't really for any particular style of music, although it's true that some parts of theory probably lend itself better to other things, right? If you're a metal player, you probably don't know a lot about chords, and I don't mean that negatively. I'm a metal player, and it took me a long time to learn that. But if your primary goal is to be a metal player, you're probably more concerned with technique and speed and certainly scale knowledge, so you have different things to do. Where if you're more of a jazz player or more of a blues player or even a pop player, you know, I like progressions like even these that are more jazzy, these sorts of... You know, even stuff like that is just really fun to play. It's fun to jam over, stuff like that. So always remember that the goal of learning theory is to start at the very beginning, learn the foundation, learn the fundamentals so the rest of it makes sense. Even if you've been playing guitar for 20 years, you can do all kinds of different things, but if you're lacking systems on your guitar, you're lacking understanding in your head, you'd be surprised at how when you start filling in those gaps, all of a sudden everything starts expanding. You got all kinds of other options, and that's what I love about playing guitar, is that I'm not stuck playing the same scale or the same position or the same licks over and over and over. I want to keep looking for different things. So think about that a little bit.
Very cool, Steve.
Thank you.
Cool. Okay, so look, guys, let's jump over here real quick.
Hi, my name is Steve Stine from GuitarZoom, and I'm super excited to tell you about my brand new Music Theory for Life Masterclass and the fact that it's actually open right now for registration. I want to show you a short video that highlights some of the secrets and the shortcuts that you're going to discover in this course so you can decide whether or not this is for you, all right? Music Theory for Life Masterclass is a 12-week interactive experience that aims at giving the budding guitar player all the music theory that you're going to need for the rest of your life. This is a complete A to Z course of all the essential scale and chord theory, as well as the real-world application techniques that you can learn and start using in your guitar playing right away. You're going to be learning a bunch of really awesome ideas and concepts and techniques like the cage chord system, the modes of music, essential chordal theory, extended chords, exotic and altered scales, the chord-scale theory relationship. You're also going to be learning about transposition, memorization of your fretboard. Everything that we talk about is directly applied to your fretboard, and there's just so much more. It doesn't matter if you're a beginning guitar player or a skilled advanced player. We start from the ground up and dive deep into some advanced stuff, cutting everything into simple bite-sized chunks so it's easy to swallow and digest. So whether you're just starting out or you've been playing for a lot of years, there's something in here for everybody. Best of all, I've designed this course to be simple and easy to use, so if you're more interested in the whiteboard or the fundamental musical theory elements, it's in here. You're going to be able to go right to it. Or if you'd rather skip over some of those and go right into the fretboard or practical application of the guitar, so you can start learning how to play scales and chords and all that sort of thing, that's in here too. Okay? Whatever it is that you choose, they're all listed in here. And once the class is over, you'll get lifetime access to all of the videos and all of the studies that we had in this masterclass. So you can always come back and relearn or restudy anything that you might have skipped over or you might have missed. Here's a quick preview of some of the things you're going to be learning in this theory course. In week number 1, we're going to be looking at the fundamental theory, the complete overview. We're going to study all the basic fundamentals of music theory. We're also going to learn what is music theory, why is music theory critical for songwriting, ear training, playing chords, scales, transposition, and more. We'll be discussing my fundamental whiteboard and practical or application ideas. This way you can learn both the theory in the mind as well as on the fretboard. How to learn the entire musical alphabet using just one simple scale. What is a scale and how is it created? We'll also be discussing chords and chord progressional ideas. In week 2, we begin fretboard study, commanding the fretboard with note memorization and interval studies. We're going to learn to apply the chromatic scale to each and every string on the guitar. We'll be discussing shortcuts to memorizing the notes on each string. We'll learn how to cross-reference each new string with the last string to memorize note relations and octaves on the guitar. We'll learn one fast and easy trick to learning these intervals on each string. We'll also learn how to see intervals on multiple strings at the same time. In week 3, we start the major scale theory. We're going to learn to construct a major diatonic scale from the chromatic scale. We'll learn its half steps and its whole step configuration. We'll learn that all major scales have half steps between the 3rd and 4th and the 7th and 8th, and I'll show you a really awesome shortcut doing that. We'll be using the key of C to begin with to keep everything nice and easy. We'll be applying that same template to all the other keys, so you'll learn all 12 keys so you can learn about transposition. We'll be applying that major scale theory directly to the fretboard. In week 4, we're going to start our fundamental chord theory. We're going to learn how chords are created from each step of the major scale. We're going to discuss triads and how they're created and how they're stacked together. We'll learn that triads are actually 3 different sizes in a major scale. There's a major chord, a minor chord, and a diminished chord. We'll also learn how to transpose all of this into all other keys. In week 5, we'll be expanding your fretboard with chord concepts. You'll be learning my major chord conversion trick. It's an easy way of learning all of your chords, major, minor, and diminished. We'll learn how the caged chord concept works for visualization of the fretboard and creating new visual ideas and options for you. We'll discuss basic arpeggios and how they bring together the scale, chord, and interval sounds all within your soloing or your rhythm playing. In week 6, we'll understand the 7th chords. We'll learn how to create 7th chords from each scale step of the major scale and the theory that goes with it. We'll discuss the major 7ths and the dominant 7ths. We'll also learn why major and minor chords can get either a major or a dominant 7th sound added on top of it. We'll learn the notation of these chords in sheet music. We'll learn why the major 7 sounds jazzy and why the dominant 7 sounds bluesy. And we'll be applying all of these chords directly to the fretboard. In week 7, we're going to begin understanding extended chords. We're going to have an extensive discussion about the theory of 9th, 11th, and 13th chords. We'll also learn how to apply all of these chords directly to the guitar. We'll also learn why, as a chord expands to add more pitches, we have to make decisions on what we want to play with the limitations of having 4 fingers and 6 strings. In week 8, we'll be exploring altered chords as well as the minor scale theory concept. We're going to learn how add chords work. We're going to learn how sus chords work. We're going to apply those chords directly to the guitar. We will learn the theory and the terminology behind all of those altered chords. We'll learn the secret to why the minor scale is actually just the major scale, but the emphasis changes. In week 9, we're going to be expanding the major scale. We're going to be talking about modes, pentatonic scales, and the blues. What are the 7 modes of music? Well, we're going to learn the basic outline of each one of those. We're going to have an in-depth discussion of how the pentatonic scale is created from the diatonic scale. We're also going to learn about the blues scale and how that's created from the pentatonic scale. And we're going to be discussing the circle of fifths. In week 10, we'll be looking at fundamental rhythm studies and understanding the blues. We'll be learning about the 12-bar blues and how that 12-bar blues structure actually works. We're going to learn why the 12-bar blues is essentially built on 7th chord sounds. We'll be talking about the illogical element of the blues and how to make sense of it for you. We'll be discussing the rhythm of the blues, either the shuffle or the swing. We're going to learn how to add extended chord concepts into our blues chords. We're going to apply the minor pentatonic scale to the blues. We're also going to apply the major pentatonic scale to the blues as well. We're also going to create what I call a hybrid blues scale by implementing both major and minor pentatonic at the same time. We'll also be studying rhythmic elements such as whole notes, half notes, quarter notes, eighth notes, and of course triplets. In week 11, we're going to study altered and exotic scale concepts as well as learning notation. We're going to learn what the harmonic minor scale is in relation to the major scale. We're also going to study the melodic minor scale and its purpose in modern music. We're going to look at many various altered scale ideas and how to apply them directly to your playing. With music notation, we're going to learn about the staff, treble and bass, the notes, and the note values. In week 12, we'll be looking at music theory in the real world. We're going to discuss famous songs and how they do or don't fit into music theory. I'll also be giving you some final words of advice and proper practicing tips. The skills that I'm going to be introducing you to in this course are going to be yours forever. So you can start using them at the very next jam session or the next practice that you have with some of your friends, and you can show them all the awesome things that you've actually been learning as you go to your fretboard and you start exploring all of these new ideas and concepts. Make sure you scroll down and check out some of the free bonuses that you'll be getting along with this course, but only before the big timer hits 0. And if you order it now and you work all the way through this masterclass, you're actually going to get a certificate that shows that you are a certified music theory specialist. How awesome is that? So make sure that you scroll down and you register right now. But remember, we have very limited seating, so you need to hurry up and secure your spot in this masterclass as soon as possible. See you in the Music Theory for Life masterclass.
You know, the class is the early registration ends tonight, guys, which is July 18th. Carr says, I'm really happy that I've already registered. This session was great. Cool. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
David says, Dan, smacking your lips is extremely irritating. Okay. Sorry.
Wow.
I'm really sorry, David. I'll try to do better. Seriously. We have no idea what we're doing. We are so not professional. I mean, it's like, whatever. Cecil said, I'm already registered. Okay, sweet. So people are asking about the bonuses. The bonuses for staying with us, and by the way, Steve and I are going to do a Q&A session here, and then we're going to wrap it up. The bonuses for staying with us this long, which there's 600, over 600 people still with us here, is if you click on the register here link, guys, if you click on, or the register here button, you see that button? Let me just click on that and see what happens. Hopefully it doesn't like kill the webinar.
Yeah, that wouldn't be good.
That would bum me out. Oh, dude, I totally forgot about the certification thing. I need to mention that. Don't let me forget that. So, guys, if you click on the Register Here button to get your bonuses for staying with us to the very end of this webinar, and thank you for being here. I sincerely appreciate it, and I know Steve does too. You've given us your most valuable asset, which is your time, and thank you for that. I sincerely appreciate it. If you click on the Register Here button, you'll have the page that has all the information that I just went over, and you can also scroll to the very, very bottom, and you'll see a little link that says Webinar Attendee Bonus. Actually, it should be bonuses. But if you click on that link, what's supposed to happen, and cool, it's actually working, is it goes to another page where you can enter your email and click on the big button that says Give me my bonuses, and then you can get those for free. And as I mentioned, there's actually 2 bonuses that Steve and I are throwing in for the people on this call. And they are my ear training for guitarists, essential ear training for guitarists course, which is a 3 to 4 hour course that you're going to get for free when you register by midnight tonight, which is about 12 hours away from now. So you've got about 12 hours before this page goes away and when the bonuses go away and the price goes up. So really, dude, they're also going to get the mind-blowing solo secrets, which is a bonus for our attendees here on this webinar. Again, thank you for being with us. And then there's a fast action bonus. 3 of them are gone already, but there is 1 left, Steve, which is your Slash style soloing course.
Oh, very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I got a question for you, Dan, real quick.
Yeah,
if they're on an iPad, will those links still work for the bonuses?
I think so.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I don't know where you went. There you go, Alan. If you have a problem with that, contact me through Facebook. If you have a problem getting your stuff, make sure you let us know, and we'll make sure that you do get it. So don't worry about it.
Stephen just said, "Hey, I just registered. Thanks for doing what you do." Stephen, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Guys, I checked earlier this morning because Steve is actually going to give a special email out to you guys who register, who are going to be part of this class. And all I ask, and all Steve asks, is that you just be respectful of that email. Don't hammer him like 100 times a day. And also, please make sure that you've gone through the course material before you start asking questions, because there's a very good chance that your question is going to get answered. This course is huge. Huge. And the reason we're breaking it up into modules, in fact, Steve and I were looking at all the material, and I was like, Steve, I don't think we can just release this as a big course because it's going to completely overwhelm people.
Right.
So we decided to drop it into modules, and there's going to be 12 weeks, and the first class starts on July 28th, guys. Lisa says you should be so proud. Okay, Lisa, thank you so much. Guys, when you register, come back to the chat and just let us know so we can thank you. I want to personally call you out for that.
Yeah, and while he's doing that, I'm going to let you know, too, that the class does start July 28th, and I've seen a number of questions that people have had about, well, I work during the day and things like that. What happens is every Tuesday we open up a new module for you. It doesn't mean that you have to watch it between the hours of whatever and whatever. It's just each week you'll get a new module. It doesn't mean you have to finish everything from one week to the other either. This is yours for the rest of your life. You can do whatever you want with it. So if you are busy and you go out of town or you have whatever going on, when you come back, it's all going to be sitting there. You just start working through it. And then, again, I'll be doing live classes throughout. I'll be doing live sessions throughout your 12-week course, and I'll be answering questions. We'll talk about the things that you're studying, things like that. And if you happen to miss one of those live sessions, those will be recorded as well, so you can watch those.
Yes,
so,
absolutely.
Yeah, so you don't have to feel like you're in such a hurry to try and get through things. It's all there. If you miss something and you come back, after the 12 weeks, it'll still be there, and you can still keep working on it. So.
Okay. Jeff said, I just got mine for $197, can't wait. Guys, I really hope that you can see the value of this. I mean, for $197, you're basically investing in a 12-week masterclass that's going to be setting you up for life. I mean, in terms of music theory, you're going to have lifetime access to all of the videos. You get instant access to the bonuses. Okay, so all of the bonuses that you see on the page when you click on the register here link, it takes you over to the page. All of those bonuses you get instant access to. And then the first class is going to be posted up July 28th, which is a Tuesday. Oh yeah, someone just said mention the certification. Okay, so you get the class, the first class on July 28th, guys. And then what's going to happen is you're going to have 4 live sessions like this with Steve to answer your questions. Robert said, "Got to go." Okay, thanks, Robert. Appreciate you being here, dude.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Harry said the registration finally popped up. Guys, if you're not seeing the register here button, please let us know. Also, if you have questions, if you are on the fence about this and you haven't, if for whatever reason you haven't decided to come on board with us, let me know, because I'm curious why someone would not register for this. Are you afraid that you may not be able to keep up with the material? One guy says, Jeremy says, is this course more advanced guitar players? Steve, I think the question I think we kind of got that earlier, but I think the answer is it's for all. Is that true?
It is for all, yeah.
I actually said this not for absolute.
Trying to make everything work. Yeah, this course is for anybody. If you're an absolute beginner, what this course isn't about is about trying to work on technique and speed picking and all those kind of things. I have courses. GuitarZoom's got courses for all that kind of stuff. This is about understanding your theory and understanding your fretboard. So when the module first begins, it's going to set up kind of what I'll call a preparatory section where you're going to start learning all of the fundamental elements that you need. Some of it you might be familiar with, some you might not, but you need those things to start moving into development of scales and intervals and chord creation, construction, all those kind of things. So even if you were an absolute beginner, you're going to learn your theory and you're going to learn how to apply just vast amounts of information to your fretboard. What you don't need to worry about is how fast you're doing it or how efficient you are on your fretboard. That is not what this course is about. So there's a lot of great supplemental courses out there that can go, like Dan said, deeper into a cage system or deeper into a mode system or deeper into a chordal system. There's a million places you could go. That's half the fun of being a guitar player, is spending your life studying these elements. But this is going to get you set up with all the fundamental things that you need in all of those categories. So
yes. Jennifer, thank you for registering. Really appreciate that. Keith, thank you for registering. We are totally looking forward to seeing you in the class and being part of the Masterclass private Facebook group, which is an awesome group, by the way. We just had someone register from the UK. Thank you so much. By the way, guys, there's so many questions still coming in. I'm trying to just keep moving down as I'm trying to read it. If you registered, guys, come back and tell us why you registered. What are you looking forward to? You know, was there one thing like, you know what, I totally want to master modes, and so that was the thing that kind of put me over the edge, or got me off the fence type thing, or what was the reason that you decided to register, and what are you looking forward to being able to accomplish, and what are you excited about with the course? And if you're on the other side of the fence, you decided that this is not for you, I'd like to know why. Is it just you're not into theory, or you don't see the value of what we're talking about here, or whatever? Please let me know. Charles says, I'm registered and I'm stoked. Awesome, Charles. Thanks so much.
Yep, thank you, Talia from Australia. Thank you. Thanks, Tom. Awesome.
Sean said, I just registered and I'm looking forward to it. Awesome. We're looking forward to seeing you too, Sean.
Steve's got a question. It says, I've got a course, Real World Soloing. Should it matter that the course before I move on to this course? No. Real World Soloing is going to be approaching things from, it's going to be supplemental to this, but they're not going to conflict at all. The big thing is for you to, and I can help you with this, but for you to iron out how your practice regimen is going to go, your daily practice regimen. I always try and spend a little bit of time each day focusing on understanding my fretboard. And then I focus a little bit each day on working on creativity, like soloing, writing, things like that. And so that's something that you need to learn how to do, is just spend a little bit of time each day trying to get better physically, get better mentally, and get better creatively. That's the real 3 things to try and focus on every day.
Yes, absolutely. So, guys, we're going to keep answering your questions here as much as we can. We've been on here for approaching 2 hours now. Alex says, I've got to spark up a Barbie. Not sure what that means. It's almost 9 p.m.
I know what that means.
I'm so innocent. Let's see. Oh, did you already address this? Al says, I already own the Music Theory Made Easy course. How is this going to be different?
Okay. The big difference with this one is that when Dan and I talked about trying to create something that really takes someone from the very beginning to the pinnacle, this thing is like music theory on steroids. So it goes way deeper. And there was a lot of other places that I decided to go with this course that I hadn't gone with Music Theory Made Easy. And so really it's just a much more massive course. And like I said, we're offering 4 live sessions as well. And these live sessions will be interactive. You will be able to chat with me. We do have a chat line set up when we start our live session, so you will be able to ask me questions in real time, similar to what you're doing right now, only not 600 people at a time, maybe. And if I do, then Dan will have to sit next to me with the mobile phone, telling me what they say. But that's really it. Is we really wanted to go all out and really just hit all avenues of our theory, and make it as huge as possible for you to learn. So.
Now, Tony said, I just registered. I'm totally geeked. Rock on, dudes. Tony, thank you so much. We were looking forward to seeing you in the class. Gerald and Larry, I did want to let you know that I saw your comments, and I appreciate your feedback. Some of these things are kind of private, so I don't want to kind of be on the air here, but I do want to acknowledge that I did get it, and I did read it, and thank you for that. I do appreciate your feedback.
Yeah, thank you.
Every time I hit enter, I get kicked out. Chris. Hey, Matt, can we help Chris with that?
I had that happen when I was 23, but I got over it. So.
Every time you hit enter, you got kicked out? I hear you, dude. Chris, also, if you have any problems ordering, you can always contact our support group at support@guitarzoom.com. Yeah, GuitarZoom.
Let me actually put that up here. I'll put a sticky note up there.
Yeah. Bob said, I'm registered. Thank you, Bob. Troy Watson says, I've registered, expanding my knowledge for playing much in my church worship team. Awesome. Kenneth.
Awesome.
Hey, my brother's named Kenneth. Kenneth said, I registered last night. Sweet, let's do it. I'm excited. Bonuses work. Just, oh, it went. I can't read these fast enough.
I tried PayPal and I keep getting a blank screen. That's what happened 2 days ago. John, contact support at guitarzoom.com. Let them know.
Yeah.
I apologize for that.
And 2 of my tech support people are supposed to be on this call with me, and I sure hope that they haven't bailed.
No, they're there.
Okay, cool. I can't see them.
For PayPal, they need to enable pop-ups, it says.
Oh, yes. Someone else had that issue on Wednesday night. So you guys, you click on the Pay with PayPal thing. It comes up to the blank screen. You have to look at the top and click on the button that says Enable Pop-ups. Kevin said, I decided to register because I want to get a deeper understanding of how it works together and knowing what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. I think it will move me further once I know the theory. I can guarantee you it's going to
I promise you it will. That's right. Thank you, Klaus. Thank you, Roland. Thank you, Tom. Let's see. Tim, if your webinar bonuses should be showing up soon. If you have an issue, make sure you contact support at guitarzoom.com. They are ready to help with all of these things. It does take a little bit to get everything organized, so. Looks like Dan's screen is frozen. So I'm just going to keep going here. /soloing. Just registered. Looking forward to that. Thank you, Randy. Tom, what masterclass, not that I'll be able to catch it around, but I'm not sure what masterclass you're in. This is a different kind of thing. So I'm not sure if you're in, I'm not sure which masterclass you're in right now. You're probably in modes, which is a far deeper concept of the modes. This covers modes and everything else too. So, you're welcome. Helmet, you're welcome. Lisa, thank you. Tim, thank you. Oh, Dan is in the middle of a thunderstorm, and his connection isn't working very well. So we'll just keep going. No enable pop-up button. I'm familiar with that. Again, John, I'm not sure what to do about that. My technical skills on the browser side of things isn't so good. So do the best you can. Jeff, you could sell it. I would keep it. If anybody's seeing this picture of Dan, it's pretty darn funny right now. I'm enjoying it. Tom, yeah, modes. So yeah, this is going to cover a ton more stuff than just that. But your modes masterclass is obviously going very deep into how to use the modes, how to solo with the modes, in depthly how to look at it in a real world situation. That's what makes that masterclass so awesome. Let's see here. Okay, so Devin's in the same storm that Dan is in. Let's see. I'm registered 42 days. Yep, that's a good one too. Mark, let's see, register. Thank you, Marco. Thank you, Lynn. Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Claudio. Thank you, John. Let's see. I'm trying to see yours, John. Is it better when soloing to follow individual chords as they happen or just play notes within any given key? The truth is, John, you would do both. You want to change it up. I always tell people, if I heard a great, I had a conversation with a jazz guitar player a long time ago, and he told me that if you notice that you've been doing something too long, shake it up. So I tell people to think about vertical versus horizontal. Think about chords versus scales. Think about slow versus fast, or high versus slow, or high versus low, excuse me. Try and change it up as much as humanly possible. Stephen, thank you. Denzel, yeah, that's what you need to do. Send to support. They'll help you take care of that. Tom, thank you so much for being here. Thanks for your time. The links to the bonuses, I don't know, Craig. I haven't been off the call yet, so I don't know. But I'm assuming that the bonuses will be there very, very soon. Maybe give them about 30 minutes to make sure that everything's in there, because they're trying to pound everything in there. So maybe give them 30 minutes to an hour. And then if not, remember the support at guitarzoom.com. But the system does not recognize the email. Let's see. Support. Well, Tom and Matt, Matija, you guys are out there. Is support? Thank you. It is support at guitarzoom.com, right? I'm looking at my phone. It's easier to talk to them here than it is over there. Thank you, Norman. Let's see. This course, Warren, Steve, this course will be available again, I believe, sometime in 2016. So it will be available again. Usually what we do is we release these master classes somewhere about a year and a half in between. So it will be released again someday for sure. Yeah, and it is. They're laughing at me because I'm trying to do this on my own here. So support at guitarzoom.com. That's what it is. Thank you. Thank you, Carr. Thank you, Jim. Let's see. This is awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Ian. Let's see. Steve, what are the bonuses? There was modes. There was ear training. I think the slash one was sold out, I do believe, but you'll be able to find that out when you get into your member site. So thank you, Greg. Thank you so much. But Caged, awesome. I tell you what, for those of you that are interested in Caged, we're going to be going through the fundamentals of the Caged system here. But I'm telling you, just between you and I, the whole learning of the Caged element was absolutely career turning for me, because it really opened up so much stuff about my fretboard and understanding how chords and scales are related and being able to visualize things on my fretboard. So we're going to introduce you to that. We're going to get you understanding how the cage system works. But yeah, it's true. I do have a Caged Made Easy, I think it's called. Cage Made Simple, I think it is. That goes really detailed into how to use it both rhythmically and in terms of soloing that I would recommend sometime too. It's just really, really cool. Thank you, Rick. Thank you, Thomas. Thank you, David. Thank you so much. 3 a.m. and you're still here. Thank you so much. Thank you, guys. Our tech support did try PayPal, and everything's working. They said if you need to, maybe try a different browser. If you're always using Internet Explorer, it's always nice to try Chrome or maybe Firefox. For some reason, those always seem to work better in general. Maybe with this new Windows 10 coming out, it'll be different, but those just seem to always work very well. Thank you, Rick. Is it possible to use the cage system with minor chords? Jeremy, it is, but it's a little more complex because the chords don't make as good a frame as they do when they're major. But absolutely, you can see caged as minor. Usually what happens with a cage chord is you don't necessarily, like if I take that one I was just showing you, I take the C chord with the G shape. A lot of times what you're going to do is instead of using that entire shape, you're only going to use a fragment of it anyway to make a different kind of sound. Newton, thank you so much. Thank you for attending. I know you probably have to go. Shane, thank you so much. Peter, Rick, again, guys, thank you so much. Jeff, why did I choose this guitar today? Because it's one of my favorite guitars. I love to play it. Between this and my Road Warren Strat, those are the two that I really love to play. And the fretboard is fairly easy to see. So thank you, Mark. Thank you.